and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Okay, so we said there would be a Cuba story. We have a Cuba story. It's, of course, Fox News talking about Cuba. Fox News that has always been for protesters getting run over just because, you know, they're protesters and that's what you do. And then going, wait, not the ones that we support. That's really different. Please, please, please. Let's just let Fox News make this point about how we need to bring prosperity to people by blowing them up, or in Roger Meadows' case, getting them wet.
And also be sure to check out Case Study QB on Twitter.
There's a suggestion that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party is keeping this administration back from doing more to help the people we saw in the streets 10 days ago. Here's a quote from AOC from last week. We must name the U.S. contribution to Cuban suffering. The U.S. contribution, which is our 60-year-old embargo, on it goes. Black Lives Matter, another one from last Wednesday. Black Lives Matter condemns the U.S. federal government's inhumane treatment of Cubans and urges it to immediately lift the economic embargo. Are they on point, or have they missed the message, Maximo?
Wait, pause it.
That is
Okay, guys, it's Fox News. Do you think that they're going to, A, agree with not bombing Cuba, agree with AOC, or maybe something else? I don't know. It's Fox News. I can only guess.
Message, Maximo.
That is strictly the communist philosophy. Make sure you blame somebody else, especially the Americas, United States of America, for whatever problems they have created. Listen, it is not the embargo who prevents Cubans from being free. It is not the embargo who prevents, as somebody have said before,
okay, pause it right there.
For selling their fish.
Okay, so it's not America. You can't blame America, the hyperpower of the world with that really big navy and that naval base in Cuba, who has been putting a country under quarantine for 60 years, who stops things from being imported or delivered. The U.S. has nothing to do with it. Go ahead, guy who used to grow up in Cuba and had some interest in some land that he used to own that he no longer owns that he'd really like back. Go ahead.
I have said before, the fishermen for selling their fish or the farmers for selling their products. It is not the embargo who prevents the people for having a small business. It is not the embargo that is the reason for this. It is communism, it's the oppression. It is the people who honestly believe in the lies that they promised them when they're taking over. They call themselves socialists because.
Oh, by the way, can we pause it again? Can we just give a shout out to the shot of like 100 people protesting in a place? But if it's big, I think the real issue, I'm trying to figure out what the issue is with protesting with Fox, and I think the real issue is that when 10,000 people are protesting, that's just too much. Not a good idea. You really want the least amount of people protesting, and you want the thing that leads to the most violence because you care about the people, even though you don't want to make their lives better. I'd like to remind people that the really wealthy in Cuba are usually able to smuggle things in that they want. It's turns out that's a thing that they can do. You know who doesn't get to smuggle in things that they want? Everyone else.
You know, I also want to add this, too, before we play the rest of the video. Look, the previous administrations, like the Batista administration that was ruling over Cuba, was very tyrannical, and it oppressed the people. The people were left out on the streets, not being represented. They wanted change, and here's the thing. If, you know, I don't want to mention a movie, but if you want to see just an idea of just how Cuba was being carved up by American corporations, check out the film Godfather 2. And you'll see they had a cake. There's a scene there where they're cutting up Cuba. Mm-hmm. Cuba is there as a cake, and they're cutting it up like slices. And you don't want to know who wasn't there deciding that? The people were not there. Yeah. It was American corporations that were deciding the fate of Cuba. And again, the Batista administration that was ruling over Cuba was more than willing to sell that country to American corporations.
Yeah, and it's just, I know, it's like they literally on screen right now, we see one of the smallest protests for any major subject I've seen in a while, and a guy talking who personally benefits from the Cuban government falling. What else can we expect from Fox News, the most American news show owned by an Australian and the Saudi government?
Let's play the rest of this film or video, please. See, there you go.
They call themselves socialists because they are communists. socialism is communism, and it has failed
Okay,
in
pause
every
it.
country where they have.
Buddy. Socialism is not communism. They're two fundamentally different functions. I don't know. It's like Fox News. Can you fact check a little bit? Anyway, go ahead with whatever this guy is saying.
Fail in every country where they have practiced that. And now we are seeing, after 60 years, the results of communism, the results of the lies that we're going to promise you, and as I've said before, and everybody has heard before, we're going to give you free education, we're going to give you free health care, we're going to give you everything free, when in fact, all they want is power.
Okay, pause it. So he's done talking about himself, but yeah, the life expectancy of Cubans is better than that of the U.S. Their health care is better, most cases, than that of the U.S. It's more at least accessible to the regular person. Cuba exports doctors. America exports bombs. That's the way it is.
Well, there's one other important note here. See, the thing is, there is this rush, this fanatical rush by corporate media to promote U.S. intervention in Cuba. But hey, Ro Khanna and his good friend, you know, he has a good friend, you know.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
No, the other guy. The other guy who's his friend. Come on, his first name starts with B.
Kane?
No. But here's the thing. When you have, again, politicians that are more than willing to say, oh, well, I had this wonderful conversation with all these great politicians, you know, especially with progressive lawmakers who think, again, that people like Bill Kristol, you know, are okay. Remember, Bill Kristol tweeted out that, hey, you know, we need to make D.C. into a state. We need to make Puerto Rico into a state. And we need to maybe make Cuba, once it's free, into a state. That's something that Bill Kristol tweeted out. That's what he did. The infamous warmonger for Iraq. And Ro Khanna was like, oh, yeah, I had a wonderful conversation with that guy. The corporate media is in such a super fast rush to try and get some kind of intervention or some kind of regime change happening in Cuba. But this is exactly how we cause bigger problems for ourselves. Because, again, Cuba already is a free country. It's dealing with an embargo on it, wrongly, might I add. And it needs to change. The reason why the people are suffering is because, again, U.S. foreign policy, not because of the government there. And it was the people that wanted change. If the people wanted to keep things the way they were, they wouldn't have risen up against Batista. There was reasons why the Batista administration was so despised, because it was only selling itself out to American corporations.